one of us thou art not. If thou hast misstepped into this world, plunge down from the plank and hurry home. If thou seekest I, thine desires shall be requited not. Thou must returneth whence thou came. This land is peaceful, its inhabitants kind, but thou dost not belong. I beg of thee, plunge down from the plank and hurry home.
So I would like to say here, this is what I was talking about when I say the chosen undead is merely a menace. The beings of this land are peaceful to each other because they just sit and sort of hang out and wait. We may make fun of the bone wheel skeleton for having the only job of defending the corridor, but to the bone wheel skeleton army down below in the catacombs, that is an important duty. Protect the point of entry from foreign invaders. And that's not necessarily like the chosen undead is invading the world of the Hollow. But when you look at it, you are. The other Hollows don't want the chosen undead there. And again, if thou seekest I, then thou request be requited not. If you're looking to find Priscilla, she has no desire to see you. So what are we doing in this world? It's because we picked up the strange doll, or the mysterious doll, or peculiar doll. And there was once an abomination had no place in this world. She clutched this doll tightly, and eventually was drawn into a cold and lonely painted world.
Thou must returneth whence thou, this land I beg of thee. Plunge down from the plank and hurry home.
And if we consider who Priscilla is, I mean, she is half dragon. Well, there's only one scaleless dragon that exists. And scaleless dragons don't have the immortality of the rest of the dragons. Her long white hair and sort of figure and everything sort of gives the impression that she does have a human component to her. But to be considered an abomination, what exactly is it? Is it perhaps an abomination in the eyes of the natural order of things, or is it an abomination in the eyes of a goddess who, instead of being worshipped through faith, is worshipped through intelligence, a new form of sorcery upon this earth? And that's where we get into the experimentations of Seath and what he was working on. It's interesting, though, to consider that Priscilla, even being the offspring of someone like Seath, which, again, you can say she's not the offspring of Seath, but whatever. I mean, the game is the game, you know? We don't know who the other component is, the sort of mother of Priscilla, but it is well implied that Seath is the father aspect. Unless Seath has been a female this whole time, and I just didn't know. Scaleless dragons are really hard to gender, especially when they're in games, and especially when I don't actually read the lore. I just kind of appreciate how this setting, she is much like a reaper coming to collect the toll, and yet the other side of it, the Velka's rapier, claims that it's wielded by the Pardon, who pardons people for their sins. But is the Reaper any more scary than the Pardoner? If both are weapons, then what does that say about what the goddess Velka believes for this life? Is death truly the only way out of the hell that is Lordran? Is that why the goddess Velka's influence is so much more powerful than the other gods in this time where hordes have taken over because the Age of Ancients has ended? We live in the Age of Flame as it dwindles, and yet an abomination like Priscilla has no place in the world. And yet, compared to the other monsters we've defeated, the Taurus demon, the Capper demon, what makes Priscilla so bad? What is it? It's because she represents an era long past, the age of dragons, which has long been forgotten. And people don't want to remember that they had to fight against dragons. You think C. Cascalis likes to remember that he betrayed his own kind? Could you imagine living 1,000 years with someone and then turning your back on them or stabbing them in the back? And thus, sin is born in Seath's heart. And from that sin comes worship of the goddess Velka through his daughter. And when you consider that angle of the relationship, of course, Seath is not going to like a child that is sort of a representation of a time in his life when he kind of turned his back to the morals and upbringing because Seath himself felt like an abomination. And so being reminded that he's an abomination in this new age of fire after he had sold out his own, obviously is not going to be something he feels too kind about. And when you look at Priscilla, she's one of, I think she's actually the only boss that's considered like fully optional, like enter the boss arena and leave. And there's something beautiful about her. Because again, what we're presented with is, are we defeating these enemies because they're different from us? Or are we defeating them because they're evil? And when you consider that we have been following the path of Firelink this entire time, it's hard to say whether or not our actions of chosen undead are just, at least up until this point. But that does not mean we cannot repent. Priscilla may have been born out of sin, but that does not make her life invalid or representative of sin. The reason she embraces the goddess of sin is because she acknowledges that sin occurs and she's willing to dole out the punishment. The pardoning of sins is penance with your life. Therefore, you can either live a life in sin or you can die and be shown the results of your sinning anyway, because nobody gets out of this life alive. And when you examine the half-breed aspect and how she's so much more than just a boss in Dark Souls, and yet this entire world gets relegated off because so many people in like lore communities hear that this land is peaceful and they go, well, they all fought me, and they can't take the moment to reflect that maybe they would be peaceful if you didn't come in and start killing all of them and looking for annex keys and taking their occult ember and sort of being a general nuisance. Maybe the people of this land are truly peaceful and we merely are aggravated. But that makes us no longer the good guy. And that's indifferent to whether or not we want to continue the Age of Flame or pursue the Age of Dark. Priscilla is content to wait it out. That is not necessarily something we can do. We've been waiting. We've faced our prison, and we've chosen to leave. Priscilla faces her prison, and she chooses to wait. And honestly, real recognized real. I absolutely love this boss. This aspect of the game is one of my favorite, and it's like also entirely easy to completely miss all of it if you don't go and get Julia doll first. So we're going to leave Priscilla as she is because she has given us much to think about. That's all the King Jeremiah stuff.